O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Om आप सभी का शनिवार शाम शंकर लॉज दिल्ली की वीकली मीटिंग में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। जैसा कि हम जानते ही हैं, आज हम भी हमारे बीच डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता जी जो कि राष्ट्रीय प्रवक्ता हैं और उन्होंने इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक एस्ट्रल प्लेन एंड एस्ट्रल बॉडी के विषय में पहले 3 टॉक्स 5 फरवरी, 12 फरवरी और 19 फरवरी को लिए थे। आज उसी विषय को वो आगे बढ़ाएंगे। हम लोग जानते ही हैं कि डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता शंकर लॉज न्यू दिल्ली के वर्तमान में सेक्रेटरी हैं। उन्होंने सन 1989 में 1989 में थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी की सदस्यता ली थी तथा सन 2005 में वह सोसाइटी के लाइफ मेंबर बने थे। डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता जी कई वर्षों तक दिल्ली फेडरेशन के प्रेसिडेंट भी रह चुके हैं और शंकर लॉज के प्रेसिडेंट भी रह चुके हैं। उन्होंने दिल्ली में बहुत से स्टडी कैंप्स में पार्टिसिपेट किया था तथा स्वयं भी कई स्टडी कैंप किए हैं। वह प्रोफेशनली एक डॉक्टर हैं तथा ईएसआई हॉस्पिटल न्यू दिल्ली में चेस्ट स्पेशलिस्ट के पद पर कार्यरत हैं। अब अधिक समय न लेते हुए मैं डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता जी को आग्रह करूंगा कि वे आज के विषय भूवर्लोक एवं भूवर्लोकीय शरीर के बारे में हमारे साथ अपने थॉट्स को फर्दर शेयर करें। डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता।
Thank you, Mathuji. Thank you very much. तो हम लोग का ये आज 4th सेशन है एस्ट्रल प्लेन के ऊपर और मैं प्रोजेक्ट करता हूँ जो स्लाइड है। माथुर जी दिखाई दे रहा है स्लाइड्स में?
दिख रहा है राजीव, दिख रहा है।
Okay. So we are going to continue with this topic, the astral plane and the astral body, in which we will first cover the astral plane. And in the astral plane, 3 talks have already been taken. And I'll just go very briefly over what we have covered. As we can see in the slideshow, we have been told by C.W. Leadbeater that a basic concept of the planes of nature or lokas of nature needs to be understood by the theosophical student. In that sense, there are 7 states of matter which we call 7 planes in the nature. Amongst these 7 states of matter, each state or each state has been called a plane in theosophy, or a loka we can call, and each is divided further into 7 subtypes, of which in physical world or loka or plane we have the solid, liquid and gas that we know in our world as we know, and there are 4 others called the etheric subplanes. In the same way, in each of these 7 planes of nature we have 7 divisions in each, therefore making the total subdivisions 49 in the whole of our solar system. This much I think we are all clear about. Regarding the astral world or astral plane or astral loka, which is divided into 7, similarly 7 divisions, we have the 7 divisions which have been grouped loosely into the first, second and third from the top, fourth, fifth and sixth in the middle, and the seventh in the last, or the most grossest subplane. We have already covered this, so I'm going very fast. This has been done because the entities present in these 3 groups are different types, and the environment or the surroundings are of a different type. So let's go further. We are doing, we are covering the inhabitants of the astral plane. So we have already seen that there are three basic divisions amongst the inhabitants of the astral plane. First are the humans, second are the non-human entities, and third are what has been called artificial entities, which are normally not having any kind of life of their own as such. So these are the three. We have already covered amongst the human. There are two subdivisions. First one is those humans who are living with the physical body still. Those are also found in the on the astral plane, and amongst these there are four subdivisions or four groups. We have seen the adept and his pupil, the person who is psychically developed, the ordinary person like all of us. We are all living with the physical body. So during sleep, we enter into the astral plane, and then the black magician. These are the four types of humans found on the astral plane. Those who are having living physical body. Then there are 10 types of those who are found, humans found on the astral plane, who are not having a physical body currently. Technically, we call them dead because they don't have a physical body, they have died. So we have covered all of these 10 groups. Then we went on to non-human, that is the second division. If we see, the human was the first division, the second was non-human. Now we are the non-human. The non-human entities are divided into four types. We have already covered in the last talk the elemental essence. And I'll cover this as well. The third is the artificial entities. Here we see the artificial entities. The artificial entities are of three types: the elementals formed unconsciously, elementals formed consciously, and human artificials. This, if we have time today, we might be able to cover a part of it. Now we'll go to the non-human entities where we had left at the end of the elemental essence, and we will go to the second group of non-human entities. These are the astral bodies of animals. So the astral bodies of animals, this is an extremely large class. We tend to think as if human beings are the most numerous or the most important on earth. As per theosophical literature, there are about 6,000 crores of humans who are evolving on this solar system as far as our planetary chain is concerned. But as we can see here, it is written that it is an extremely large class, and it is estimated that about each year 8,000 crores of land animals are slaughtered for food, which comes to about 21 crore animals are slaughtered per day. And even then, it does not occupy a particularly important position because the in the astral plane, their life or their stay is of a very short time. They take a rebirth very fast. Although the class is extremely large on the astral plane, but it comes and goes, comes and goes. The same thing happens with the astral body of the animal. After death of the uh, animal, the body arranges itself into concentric um, spheres of the astral body of the animal. It arranges itself like in the human being, as we have discussed very extensively. What rearrangement takes place after death with the human astral body. The same way with the animal astral body, the same thing is happening. It is rearranging itself to protect itself so that it does not get degraded or does not get destroyed very fast. And in the last astral, in this C.W. Leadbeater writes, in most cases of the animal life on the astral plane, it seems to be more than dreamily conscious but appears perfectly happy. Because the animal does not have too much of the emotional component developed or the astral body developed. So really not much activity is happening as far as the astral body of the animal is concerned. They have their likes and dislikes. They have their attractions and repulsions. They may be attracted towards certain people more. If they are domesticated, then definitely they will be having more life on the astral plane. But as far as the normal animals are concerned, which are in the jungles or in the wildlife, usually nothing much is there, and they come or they take rebirth very fast. So this was in very brief that about astral body of animals. They are also found, they are the non-human entities found on the astral plane. The third type of non-human entities, which are of extreme importance and very interesting, are the nature spirits. Now, C.W. Leadbeater says that to describe the whole, or even to some extent, the the uh, the topic of nature spirits would be to fill up a whole volume. Such is the variety and such is the difficulty of describing them that he is only going to give us something that we can understand about the nature spirits. As we go further, I'll tell you where exactly more has been given apart from C.W. Leadbeater in the theosophical literature. So the nature spirits are like animals of a higher evolution, the Deva evolution. Now, Deva evolution is much higher evolution than the human evolution. And just like we have animals who get individualized, or as they evolve further, they become humans. From the animal kingdom, they become humans. Similarly, in the Deva kingdom, from the nature spirits, which are non reincarnating entities, they become on individualization devas. In that sense, C.W. Leadbeater writes, they are more like animals of a higher evolution. And another important thing, they neither have been nor will ever be members of humanity such as ours. We have already seen previously this chart, which was given by C. Jinraj Das in his book First Principles of Theosophy, how the life on earth is evolving as we see that from earth and water there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 lines are going, or 6 ways in which the various creatures they are evolving further and what is their end point. Only one of these ways or lines or paths leads to the humans, and that starts from mosses, ferns, flowering plants. These are the non-flowering plants, then the flowering plants, then the trees, from the trees to the lower mammals, to the greater reptiles, to the mammals, to the men. So this is the human evolutionary path only. The rest are all the devas. So from the grassy, cereals, bees, ants, from fungi, bacteria, insects, smaller reptiles, birds, from seaweeds, coral sponges. So many of these creatures, all the rest of the creatures, they are going and ultimately ending up into the astral plane as sylphs. These are sylphs are the nature spirits in the astral plane, that which we are discussing. And then when they individualize, then they become devas on the astral plane, and then they are called Kama devas. Kama indicating the astral plane. Then they become Rupa Devas. Rupa indicating the form side, so on the lower mental plane. And Arupa Devas indicating that they do not have any particular form. and this is on the higher mental plane. So these are the devas, and further, as they progress further, then they become very highly evolved entities, which in a general one group they have said belong to Dhyan Chauhans or Dhyani Chauhans as they're called. So in that sense, nature spirits were never a part of our humanity, they will never be. They are also divided into seven great classes, and depending on each type of subplane on the astral plane, that is the horizontal division. Then there are the seven vertical divisions. So there are a lot of combinations and lot of variety of these nature spirits found on the astral plane. They are also called spirits of earth, water, fire, and air. In the earlier period, they were called like this because the medieval people they had mixed up the etheric as well as the astral, the nature spirits, and also based on the where they are found. If we were to look upon them as their major area of activity, they had been called in that way. So in this way, those nature spirits which were found on the earth, below the earth, on the earth, they were called as gnomes. Those which were found mainly in the water bodies like oceans and seas and rivers, they were called undines. Those which are found in the air, much in the air, in the sky, they were called the sylphs. And the fire or etheric part of the physical matter, those were where they were found there, they were called as salamanders. In popular language, in different traditions, they have been called by various names like fairies. We've heard of fairies, pixies, elves, brownies, jinns, trolls, and so on. And there are, as he says, immense number of subdivisions or races among them. And the individuals differ in intelligence and disposition just like human beings do. We also have amongst the humans people who have very low intelligence, uncultured, uncivilized, to those who are more civilized, more intelligent, having more discriminatory power, different types of abilities. Similarly, with these nature spirits, they are also evolving and they are going to become devas. And they have their own divisions, their own ways to evolve, they have their own lines of work. They also get attached to different types of Kama devas. They become apprentices like as we do chelas, and then they start doing work for a particular type of Kama devas. Then they get individualized. The same process happens, but the details of such processes have not been given to us, except just a general outline has been given to us. Now, what they have found is that the nature spirits they have their own forms, just like we have our own form. They also have their own forms, and most frequently they try to imitate humans, but their size is very small. And because they are made up of matter of the astral plane, which is very much easily movable, flexible, they by the will, they can take any shape or form as they like. And they do have definite forms, as he says, C.W. Peter. If they are not imitating or not influenced by anyone, then they come back to their own original form, which would they, he says, we can call them as their favorite form. Normally, obviously, as they are in the astral plane, we can't see them. Even the etheric nature spirits, we can't see them. But if they want, they can materialize amongst those who have developed that power to materialize, they do. And they have also certain other abilities which are used by magicians, by people who know how to manipulate them, and they do make use of these nature spirits of different types. Overall, his C.W. Leadbeater says that the nature spirits in general, they do not like to be around human beings. The reason being because the human beings have their own temperaments which are very not, they don't like our astral emanations or the changes that take place in the astral body. A lot of um, of our habits, as he says, and emanations. Basically, our astral body overall in humanity as such is having a lot of negativity. A lot of lower part of the astral matter is there, and we are involved, most of the humans, in a negative kind of feelings and emotions. So they do not like so much of turbulence in the astral body, and they don't feel so good being near the humans, as he has explained in detail. I have, of course, just concised it here. Because of the constant rush of acid currents, as he says, set up by the restless, irregulated desires, that disturbs and annoys them. Therefore, they do not like to be. But in the countryside, where the life is much more quieter and the people are simpler and they are having not so much of kind of astral currents as is written here, there the nature spirits do interact with the humans. And many books have been written. He has given the records of those books and names of those books which can be read. The There are instances, C.W. Advaita says, in which the nature spirits have made friends with human beings and even offered their own help. But in general, they do not like or they show indifference. And sometimes some of them may even deceive human beings, playing childish tricks upon humans. Now, the nature spirits do not understand the physical body. They do not understand what it means to be in the physical world. What they can see is the astral form. And like small children who can play pranks on certain gullible people, simple human beings, some of them they do. So this is what has been written here. Also, they can be assisted in their tricks by wonderful power of glamour. They can hypnotize or hallucinate, or even, as they said, mesmerize. You can use any term. Basically, as per C.W. Leadbeater, the Indian jugglers, they could hypnotize or mesmerize a large crowd of people and into seeing what he wanted them to see through the help of the nature spirits. So the famous rope trick of the Indian juggler, which is very much popularized in literature, that I'll not go into it. We know about the rope trick and many other tricks. In those, nature spirits have been made use of. Though the nature spirits can influence human beings who are of simple nature, of having a weak will, but those who are having normal or good willpower, nature spirits can't really affect them. Now, before I go further, I would like to tell that much more detail, if you are interested in reading in much more in detail about the nature spirits, then Geoffrey Hodgson, who was one of our very distinguished members of Theosophical Society, the recipient of Subbarao Medal also in 1954, and he has written more than 50 books in theosophical literature. He has written a few books on the fairies. The Kingdom of Fairies is one of them, apart from other books. And one can find I'll show you what he has written about his experience. So this is a book, The Kingdom of Fairy, from which I have taken this, and I'll read it. It will be very interesting for some of us. He was moving around with his wife in the countryside of England in 1925, and he then compiled his notes and published this book in 1927, The Kingdom of the Fairies. And in this chapter of Gnome and Deva, he writes, for the last 6 months, I have been aware that a member of the Gnome family who has succeeded in obtaining a greater measure of self consciousness than some of his brethren has been taking an increasing interest in us, meaning Geoffrey Hudson and his wife. In the summertime, he would generally appear as we entered the garden from the house, running out from the orchard across the lawn and attracting my attention by etheric flashes. Very little notice was taken of him at that time, but since the coming of winter, he has begun to enter the house. During our evenings around the fire, he is frequently to be seen playing about the room, passing in and out of the windows, and showing quite as much interest in us as would, say, a tamed bird or squirrel. He is exactly 1 foot 8 inches in height. I have been able to measure him because his head reaches the tip of a certain ornamentation on the legs of the piano. His skin is very dark and his body of a spongy texture rather like soil which has been frozen and has thawed. See, this Geoffrey Hudson, I forgot to tell you that he was a clairvoyant right from childhood, and he was initially guided by the Deva kingdom, by the Devas, and as he progressed further, he entered the Theosophical Society, and further he became an initiated disciple of our masters. So further he writes, although he meaning the gnome, is not capable of anything approaching real affection, he finds sufficient pleasure in our society to make him forsake his usual haunts for the unusual environment of the inside of a house. He is able to recognize my wife and myself as distinct from each other and from other people, and in our company he finds quite definite pleasure. He is not as sensitive to the vibrations of our astro-mental auras as are the other orders of nature spirits, and can come quite close to our physical bodies, feeling only pleasure in those of our vibrations to which he can respond. Further, he writes, looking into his mind, into the mind of the gnome. Now, Geoffrey Hudson is looking into the mind through the mental side. Looking into his mind by an extension of the faculties which enable me to see his form, I find no memory of this experience, nothing, in fact, beyond a vague sense that it is pleasant to be here. There is an instinctive recognition that the contents of the room are familiar to him, but no definite memory of any previous contact with them. He does not see any object as we do. When on the ground, he sees the legs of furniture and of people. He has no understanding of any upper portion being connected with them. I am not able to see how he recognizes us, and in his mind there is no knowledge of my having any existence higher than my hips. So the nature spirit is only able to see his trousers. He says, in fact, his conception of me just now looks to me like an animated pair of trousers. So Geoffrey Hudson is unable to understand how this gnome is able to recognize him when he can only see Geoffrey Hudson as a pair of trousers. He sees both and feels the health aura and likes to stand within it and to receive an etheric shower bath. Now, seeing this activity, Geoffrey Hudson notices another thing. He notices that a deva nearby has seen this interest of gnome in Geoffrey Hudson. So what does the deva do now? After a passage of 3 months, an opportunity occurred for further study of the gnome. He had frequently been seen in the house and garden, but apart from a greeting and glance in his direction, no special attention had been paid to him. Investigating his circumstances more closely, I find that he has been made the subject of a special experiment by a deva who seems to occupy the position of a guardian over the elemental life in the garden and the large orchard surrounding it, where many thousands of young fruit trees are growing. This deva is evidently much concerned with the task of quickening the evolution of his charges, and his attitude is very like that of an animal breeder or of a gardener who might select this or that animal or plant for special treatment. He observed that gnome had become friendly with us and decided to take advantage of this fact. So this is a very interesting book. Those who are interested can read this book. It's freely available in the internet, and those who want, they can send their email. I will definitely send them this book. Now, going further, C.W. Leadbeater writes that the life period of these various different types of nature spirits are different, and he says that it is almost impossible for us to understand much about the conditions. But in general, the whole of the nature spirit kingdom, or these people or these entities, are simple, joyous, irresponsible kind of, they are having irresponsible kind of existence, just like happy children are living their life. Apart from this, he also writes some of them are less childlike and more dignified, and amongst these, they can imitate, or they can uh, behave like wood gods or local village gods. So he has said that Gram Devta, or some sort of local Devta, they can behave that way, and in tradition or custom of that particular area, maybe a tribal area, they may be regarded out of custom in that way and also venerated. And it may be that sacrifices or offerings may be given to them to please them, so that their area, their fields, their health and everything can be protected by the local village god. Of course, C.W. Leadbeater says usually the village god is an artificial entity. And this, if we have time today, we will cover in the artificial entities, the elementals. There we can cover this. Now the adept knows how to make use of these services of the nature spirits when he requires them. But the ordinary magician, the ordinary people who are not so adept, or those who do not have the full knowledge, the will, they can only use these nature spirits by either of the two processes. Either they can request the nature spirits, kind of, make a humble request, prayer to help them out, or they can do, this is called invocation, or they can make a bargain with them, or they can do something else which is called evocation. Evocation means they can make them do by force, using mantras or some other ways in which they can force the nature spirit to do particular type of work. According to C.W. Leadbeater, both these methods are undesirable and not recommended by the Great White Brotherhood. And this evocation method, in which one forces a nature spirit to do something, is also dangerous, as if the operator or the magician fails to hold on to that spirit, or the spirit gets released from the nature spirit, gets a chance to take its revenge, it will take its revenge in a very dramatic, terrible manner. So it shall even prove fatal to this operator or the magician. So he says that no one studying occultism under a qualified master would ever be permitted to attempt anything of the kind at all. So this line is quite important, that even if we were to find a mantra or magical evocation, whatever, we may be able to find some way to do something for the nature spirits, at least we should not be doing these kind of experiments. We come to the last division of the non-human entities, and they are the Devas. Now the Devas are the highest system of evolution connected with our earth, and they have been called angels also, but usually we call them Devas, we understand. So Devas or angels are the same thing, whereas nature spirits are different and elementals are different. So we have to make a distinction in these three terms. So here it is clearly stated that human evolution is not the highest system of evolution on this planet or planetary chain. Which is the highest system? It is the Devas. Those of us who are interested in knowing much more about the Devas, we can read the book Devas and Men. Devas and Men is also like a compilation of the different books uh, of theosophical literature from extracts taken and compiled together, just like Arthur E. Powell did for the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, causal body, and solar system. Similarly, the Devas, all the information regarding Devas has been compiled in that book called the Devas and Men. I think it is by the Southern, somewhere in Australia, I think they did Southern some center. I don't remember exactly which center has done this work, but Devas and Men is a good book, detailed book, in which one can know probably everything that is given in our theosophical literature regarding the Devas. So the Devas becomes the highest system of evolution, and they are lying next above humanity in the same way as humanity lies next above the animal kingdom. Such is the difference between us and Devas, just like between us and the animals. Now, as humans are evolving on one globe, we are on this earth, and because we are on this earth, we are evolving on this earth alone. And on the earth, seven races of humanity will come one by one. Already, the first three, we are already in the fifth race. We in theological literature call it the root races. So we are already in the fifth race. The fifth race has come. In each of the race of human beings, there are seven sub races or seven divisions, and currently the fifth subdivision or the fifth subrace has already appeared or is already there. So the fifth race on earth has been called as the Aryan race, and the Indians, as we are in India, we are the first subdivision or the first subrace of this fifth race. The second was the Egyptian, the third was the Persian and Arabic, the fourth was the Roman, the Greeks. They were the south eastern or the southern European countries. They are having the fourth race, and that was called the Celtic. And then the fifth has come in Germany. It is the maximum number of people of the fifth subrace are present in Germany, UK, Australia, US. They have been called the Teutonic. So fifth subdivision or fifth subrace has come. Sixth will come, seventh subrace will come. After this, then the sixth race will come, and the seventh subdivision of the sixth race will come. Thereafter, the seventh race will come, and the seven subdivisions of the seventh race will come. Once all of these have come, then the work of evolution on this planet Earth will be over in this round, and the whole of the life will shift from this globe to the next globe. And the next globe that we have been told is going to be Mercury. Then from Mercury, after again seven races have passed through with all their seven sub races, life will go on to another globe, which will be an astral globe. Then life will go, after the seven races have passed through that, into the lower mental globe. In this way, we have seven globes of this chain, or this what we call as terrestrial chain or the earth chain. These seven globes, life will move around these seven globes. Once life has moved all along seven globes, we call it one round, because life has moved all along the seven globes. Seven such rounds, when they are completed, then one chain of evolution is completed. Our earth chain of evolution will be completed when life has moved all along these globes 49 times. Because in one round there are seven, in seven rounds there will be 49 times. So this is how one earth chain will be completed. This is for the human beings, how human beings are supposed to evolve on this solar system in this way from globe to globe. But here, angels are not confined to one globe. The whole of these seven globes, they are like one globe to them, one world to them. So they are moving, or they are able to move from one globe to another globe. For them, there is no distinction between one globe and another globe. All the seven globes are like one globe for them. And their evolution, as he writes, being through a grand system of seven chains instead of seven rounds as we have, they have a different way. So we have been only told about the earth, about the how humanity will progress on earth and the various chains or schemes of evolution of humanity, how we will evolve. As far as the angels are supposed to evolve, in what way their worlds are constructed or their movements are there, only these few hints are given here and there. Now, Deva kingdom actually starts from the astral plane, the real Deva, the individualized Deva. It does not start at the physical plane. At the physical plane, they have the nature spirits in the etheric matter. Then they have the nature spirits in the astral matter. These nature spirits in the astral matter, once they evolve to a condition where they can individualize and become a deva, they become a deva on the astral plane, and then they are called as Kama Devas. So their three lower great divisions are generally called the Kama Devas present on the astral plane. Then, as they progress further, the Kama Devas, as they evolve further, then they become Rupa Devas as they enter into the lower mental world, and then they conquer the lower mental world. Then they enter into the higher mental world, and there they become the Arupa Devas. In this way, their progress takes place. Now, the lowest form of Deva kingdom is the Kamadeva, as we have just now studied. The average Kamadeva in evolutionary terms is much higher than the average human being. But if the human is quite unselfish and spiritually minded, then such a human being can stand much higher in the scale of evolution than some of them. In that sense, overall, human beings are at a lower level, overall, the average human, as compared to the average Kamadeva. But here and there, human beings which are progressing and approaching the probationary path or are much more spiritually minded, philanthropic, more unselfish, doing good work, those can be said to be on par, at par, or even higher than the average Kamadeva. The reason being that the Kamadeva itself, as a average Kamadeva, once it becomes a Kamadeva, is not having any negative emotional component to it. It is only the positive side that the Deva has. It does not have the negative side. So they do not have the negativity on the astral plane. That is why they are usually at a higher level. Now, the question arises, can we contact them? Are they friendly towards us? Do they notice us? So this question has been answered by C.W. Leadbeater that their attention can be attracted by certain magical evocations, but only human will which can dominate their will is that of certain high class of adepts. Now there might be certain black magicians or certain people who know how to uh, make use of these Kamadevas by dominating their will. But in general, only the adepts or very high evolved people can do that. As a rule, these Kamadevas are scarcely conscious of us on the physical plane. But sometimes they may become aware of some human being in difficulty, and just like we may help some animal or some person out of pity, they may help us. This is all that he has told us, C.W. Leadbeater. Also, he writes, C.W. Leadbeater, overall, the Deva kingdom in general has been told, or it is well understood amongst them, that they should not interfere at this state or at this period of time with human affairs, because the evolution of humans will be adversely affected. That is why they keep away. But if you read Man, Whence, How, and Whither, and the section on the sixth race, which is going to come up in about 500-600 years time now, then the description in that is given of the temples in which the Deva kingdom is in close contact with the human kingdom, and they are helping the humans to evolve much further. Very nice description of how the Deva kingdom will does the service in the temple. They act like priests, and how they transmute the various powers and the various forces. Very nice description has been given. Those who are interested can please read it. In fact, that section has been published as a separate book. I think it is called the sixth root race or something like this, the coming rays or something like this. So one can read that. Now we have some time, so I'll just go briefly over the next section. Till now we have seen the non-human entities. There are four types of non-human entities: the elemental essence and the astral bodies of animals. The elemental essence, they form the part of elemental kingdom. Now there are three elemental kingdoms, 1, 2, and 3. Then the astral bodies of the animals. So the animals also, there is one kingdom called the animal kingdom. So these two groups, although they are classified as non-human entities, but as they progress further and evolve further, they will enter into the human kingdom. Whereas these two groups, the nature spirits of all kinds and the devas, they are belonging to the Deva kingdom. They were never and they will never be part of the human kingdom. Now we go on to the third group of entities found on the astral plane. The first was human entities, the second were the non-human entities, and third are the artificial entities. Among these, there are three groups or three types of entities. The first are the elementals formed unconsciously, then there are the elementals formed consciously, and third are the human artificials. Overall, the artificial entities, they form the largest class of astral entities. The humans form a big class, big number, but more than the humans are the non-humans, and more than the non-human entities are the artificial entities. So on the astral plane, the largest number of entities found are these artificial entities. And also, they are the most important to man, because the artificial entities are created by the humans themselves. And because of this, that they create them, there is a lot of karmic interaction taking place. These artificial entities, as they are created and they are present, they exert their own influence upon all the different types of human beings present. And therefore, there is a mixture of forces which are acting upon each human being. As we go on further, we'll understand this. Now, C.W. Leadbeater, he writes, it is such an enormous mass of semi-intelligent entities that we can't really classify them to understand or to study them. So what he has done to understand the artificial entities, he has divided them into three groups. The first group is those which the humans make unconsciously. Those which the magicians, those who know about these, they make consciously. And the third, which are called the human artificials, they are a very specific types and very small in number. They are called the human artificials. So these are the three groups in which he says I can't classify more than that. So we go on to the first one. These are the elementals formed unconsciously. What is meant by elementals here? Because this book was came out as a part of a lecture given by C.W. Leadbeater in 1894 in London Lodge. Thereafter, it came out as a book or a booklet, Transactions of the London Lodge, which later on was then printed as a or published as a book, The Astral Plane. And in fact, it was then it was such a uh, extraordinary book that it was kept in the occult museum, which is of the Great White Brotherhood. So this book, when it was written, at that time the term thought forms or astral forms were not there. That was a later part when Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater they standardized the terminologies later on. So at this point in time, the word elemental here it means a shape or a form made in the astral plane. When we desire something, when there is a longing or a desire for something, whether there is an attraction or repulsion from something, then a human being, uh, the desire of that human being takes up a shape in the astral plane of the astral matter. That shape has been called as an elemental. Similarly, in the mental world, when we think of something, then that thought takes up a shape and it has been called a thought form nowadays, but earlier it was just called as an elemental. Usually human beings, they do thinking and desiring together. Our thoughts are, most of us are having selfish thoughts. Because our thoughts are selfish, our desires are selfish obviously, and associated with thinking, planning how to execute and get what we desire. So normally a form called astro-mental form is made. It is having components of both the astral and the mental part. So together these forms have been called as elementals here in this book. In the later books, they have been called as thought forms or astral forms. So here we have understood what is meant by an elemental in that context. So already we know that in the astral plane, the matter of the astral plane is made up of atoms, which was made by one force of the solar logos, our Ishvara, the what we call as we can call God also. But in the creator of the solar system, the solar logos, when he started making the solar system, he made the different atoms. Once the atoms were made, then another force came from the solar logos and it gave power or life, and it is called a life wave or life stream of the second logos. It came and it gave the power or the ability to this matter to combine together, aggregate together, gave them their qualities, and we've already dealt with it in the previous talk. And on the astral plane, there are 2401 types of such elemental essences. So their combinations make up the various elemental forms. So here, whenever we have a desire, so supposing I have a desire when I see in the market a particular object. Let's suppose I have seen a pen, a fountain pen. Then in my mind, I see that pen and I desire to have that pen. Immediately, because of the desire and the thought associated with it, will make a form in the astral plane which will have the shape of that pen and there will be another something else more than that, but let us just confine ourselves to that. It will be a shape of a pen and that pen will be formed, and that is what is called as an elemental. So in this way, unconsciously, we are constantly making form after form because we are constantly thinking something or the other, desiring something or the other, feeling something or the other, longing for something, attracted towards something, or repulsed from something. Constantly it is happening. It is estimated that each human being, on an average, has 60 to 70,000 thoughts. So we can imagine how many different types of such forms each person must be making. And where are they being made? In the astral plane. Where is the astral plane? It is here. So we are moving, all of us are moving in this sea of forms, different types of elementals or astromental forms. And as they strike our astral body, our lower mental body, they are going to have some impact. Now, further, he says that when I desire or think something, depending on how much intensity with which I have desired or thought, that form which is made will have life, because my desire or my thought is actually the force with which I have made is the life of that form. The form is made by the matter, but the existence of that form, how long it will live, it depends on how much intensity was there when I made that form. That is number one. And whether I keep on repeating that same desire and strengthening the life of that form again and again. If I just have a fleeting thought or desire of, let's suppose I just have a thought, random thought that, oh, yesterday I saw a bus which was orange colored, and it comes and it goes. Nothing much of the intensity of a thought or force was put into that thought, and that thought will produce a form of that bus which I saw out of memory. I have just, and then it will just disappear after some time because it does not have any life to sustain that form. The life is not there because I did not give enough intensity to that thought. So he says, C.W. Leadbeater, and I think I'll stop at this slide and then next time we'll continue with this. Most people's thoughts are so fleeting and indecisive that the elementals created by them last only a few minutes or a few hours, but an often repeated thought or an earnest wish will form an elemental whose existence may extend to many days. So with this, I would Mathurji, I think I can stop my talk today. If there are any comments or questions, you're
किसी के
welcome.
किसी के कोई क्वेश्चन है तो बताएं। अभी तो चैट बॉक्स पे कुछ नहीं है। किसी में कुछ क्वेश्चन है या कुछ कहना है तो बताएं।
जी सर।
हाँ, बगुना जी बोलिए।
सर स्पीकिंग। नमस्कार सर।
नमस्कार।
ये राजीव जी, एक बात बताइए, जो आपने अभी थॉट फॉर्म की बात कही, तो किसी ने मान लिया पेन का थॉट आया, तो वो फॉर्म जो बनेगी वो पेन टाइप की बनेगी?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल,
पेन जैसी ही बनेगी।
वो जो फॉर्म जो
अच्छा,
सोचा गया उसी की बनेगी।
अच्छा, अब किसी ने मान लिया ऐसा सोचा कि भाई फलाना आदमी बीमार है, वो ठीक हो जाए, उसका पेन कम हो जाए, तो उसमें क्या फॉर्म बनेगी?
उसमें भी फॉर्म बनेगी और वो नेक्स्ट टाइम हम लेंगे उसको हम लेंगे उस पॉइंट को।
इसी प्रकार कोई किसी का बुरा भी सोचता है,
बिल्कुल, उसका भी फॉर्म बनेगा और उसका इम्पैक्ट होगा, दोनों का होगा।
दोनों का होगा। अच्छा, एक चीज जो आपने कही, जो एनिमल्स जो है वो इस वर्ल्ड में जाते हैं, अब एस्ट्रल वर्ल्ड के बाद जल्दी निकल जाते हैं, क्योंकि उनकी डिजायर्स और फीलिंग्स वो ज्यादा होती नहीं। उसके बाद क्या वो आगे आगे मेंटल में नहीं जाते, सीधे उनका रीबर्थ हो जाता है?
हाँ, कुछ जो डोमेस्टिकेटेड एनिमल्स होते हैं,
हाँ।
मतलब कि अभी तो यही कहा गया कि ऐसा होता नहीं है। जो इस किताब में लिखा है उसके हिसाब से जो अभी इंडिविजुअलाइजेशन जिनकी हो गई है या होने वाली है, वो तो हो सकता है मेंटल वर्ल्ड के अंदर एंटर कर जाएं, मगर वो अनकॉन्शियस ही रहेंगे, ज़्यादा उन्होंने कुछ करा नहीं है। क्योंकि मेंटल वर्ल्ड में या दिवाचनिक पीरियड एरिया में एंटर करने के लिए आपको कुछ न कुछ अनसेल्फिश काम करना होता है। अदरवाइज अनसेल्फिशनेस जिस एनिमल ने दिखाई है उसके लेवल के हिसाब से ही वो उसमें एंटर कर सकता है, अदरवाइज नहीं कर पाएगा।
अच्छा, इसमें सर जैसे आपने जो पीछे इवोल्यूशन की चेन दिखाई, जिसमें कि आदमी का भी, एनिमल्स का भी हो रहा है, मैनकाइंड भी हो रहा है, देन देयर आर अदर्स, मॉसेस, फर्न्स, अलग अलग 4-6 डिविजन जो आगे जाकर के ग्रो हो रहे हैं या इवॉल्व हो रहे हैं, उसमें ह्यूमन का लास्ट आपने क्या बताया, चौहान?
ध्यान चौहान मतलब कि वो एग्जॉल्टेड एंटिटीज जो कि
हाँ,
एवोल्यूशन के अंदर अब गाइड करती हैं। आप इनको बस ध्यान चौहान का जो मतलब है ना, आप ये समझ लीजिए वो एंटिटीज जो कि एडेप्ट शिप जीवन मुक्त हो चुके हैं और वो गाइड कर
अच्छा,
रहे हैं ह्यूमैनिटी को, एवोल्यूशन को,
हाँ।
उनको आप मान लीजिए उस तरीके से।
First of all, sir, we are extremely thankful for you presenting such a complicated, vast topic, जिसके ऊपर शायद अभी तक रिसर्च ही पहले पूरी नहीं हुई है।
जी
ऐसा
सर।
लगता है मैं आपकी बात सुन करके कि अभी तो इसमें बहुत स्कोप है आगे लोगों के सोचने का, एंड प्रेजेंटिंग इट इन सच अ सिंपल फॉर्म. So thank you very much, and I
थैंक यू
hope
सर।
this will continue. I hope this will
यस
continue,
यस
sir.
विल
There
डू।
will be more sessions.
यस थैंक यू
Thank
वेरी
you.
मच।
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv, for presenting a view of astral world which is very complex to understand, as Mr. Bahuguna is also saying. तो हम लोग इसको और आगे समझेंगे
शिंदे जी
डिटेल
भी
में।
हैं, शिंदे जी
हाँ
से। हाँ।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, शिंदे जी भी हैं। किसी और ने भी कुछ कहना है तो बताएं। शिंदे जी, प्लीज अनम्यूट एंड टेल अस समथिंग।
Oh, nothing to tell. Gupta ji has explained very nicely. गुप्ता जी आप बहुत अच्छे तरीके से बता दिए हैं. वंडरफुल एक्सप्लेनेशन. बट इट इज वेरी वेरी व्हाट आई कैन से confusing to the people always, because we don't know what devas, what fairies, and all this is seems to be more imaginary. And actually for spiritual growth and moral growth, we have to be free from all such kind of knowledge, actually. Otherwise, the same knowledge, it binds us from freeing our mind. Otherwise, it gets frightened when it goes near to the water. It is frightened by the fairies of water. When it go into the nature, it is frightened by the nature, or it expects some nature spirits to come and help. All these, freedom from all these is essential for the human mind. Gupta ji, I want to ask you, Prajapati once asked, gave one word, the, and this the word was wonderfully in different perspective received by Deva kingdom, Asura kingdom, and human kingdom. And for human kingdom, it was dana, generosity, dana, charity. And for Deva kingdom, it was daman. And for Rakshas kingdom, it was daya. So for human kingdom, for evolution, we are concerned with the human kingdom. We have to be generous in all these things. And Deva kingdom, they have to be, what we say, Deva kingdom, and the Rakshas kingdom, they are Daya, and Deva are Daman, because they are enjoying. Devas are enjoying all kind of bhoga. So, and one more, Deva kingdoms are more or like soul, group soul. Deva kingdom has a group soul. As you said, the whole globe is surrounded by that. And they are enjoying all kinds of whatever it is, they are enjoying. So I think all of us, we must remember, we can study this with out of interest, because human being is very eager to know many things. But also we must be try to free from all such kind of things. As Krishnamurti said, he once in one of the talks said, I remember his words. He said, I was in India, especially in Delhi, and a person was daily coming by cycle and sitting on the bench, calm and quiet, and he was chanting mantra. Mantra chanting. By that chanting, his mind was becoming so peaceful that was expressed on his face. And he was doing this for years together, very sincerely, very diligently working on mantra, and he was peaceful during that period. He explained, Krishnamurti explained this much, and I was also very eagerly listening to Krishnaji, of course on tape, not exactly. And then immediately Krishnaji said, he was mesmerizing himself. He was mesmerizing himself, and freedom is free from all kinds of mesmerism. So I think we are also getting mesmerized in the most information, which we don't believe in fairies and devas and all this. But we are also, I think, mesmerizing. And I am making alert to the listeners not to get mesmerized, but you study this. Guptaji has explained very nicely, Rajiv Gupta, and I am asking him to study more, because I was listening carefully to all this. I was also not having so much information. You told so many books, Geoffrey Hudson, etc. They have done a lot of work. But I don't go into those details. I am trying to myself keep my mind free from all such kind of things. I don't know whether I am right or wrong, but somehow I am impressed. But I like to listen if somebody is telling in depth certain information. But I am not affected by the information. That is what I want to add in this. Whether I am correct or not, I don't know how Rajiv Gupta ji takes it.
No. Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. So the
Thank you.
information has to be taken at the level of information, because
Yeah.
the astral plane that we are studying is the what we are surrounded with, and this is how description is being given. So if I go to Greenland or Iceland and I come back and talk about the Eskimos and other people, we have to take it in that way. That is all in this that we have. And also the warning has been given not to interfere with nature spirits or with devas, both. They just another evolutionary scheme which is going on. In that sense, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank
Sir.
you, thank you, thank you, Shindy.
थैंक यू शिंदे जी, थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता। बहुत अच्छी अच्छी इंफॉर्मेशन हम लोगों को सबको मिली। थैंक्स टू ऑल पर्सन्स हु हैव अटेंडेड द टॉक। तो
सर
जैसा कि हम लोगों के दोनों ही स्पीकर्स ने बोला है, हम लोग उस वे में इसको समझें और उसको वैसे ही आगे ग्रहण करने की कोशिश करें। प्लीज बोलें।
जी गुड इवनिंग।
हाँ
मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था, एज यू
हाँ
डिस्कस अबाउट द थॉट
हाँ
फॉर्म्स,
हाँ,
so
बोलिए।
my question was like how we are affected by the thought forms created by others, and does it depend on the psychic development of us, in a sense that what is a correlation, मतलब ज़्यादा जो psychic ability जिनकी ज़्यादा होती है वो ज़्यादा affected होते हैं या वो कम affected होते हैं, और अगर we know that somebody around is having a think negative of us, then how to shield that?
ये ना हमारा नेक्स्ट टाइम का टॉपिक है, बिकॉज आपने जो सवाल पूछा है, दिस इज ए वास्ट टॉपिक इन इटसेल्फ। And in short, I will just say, when I think of somebody in a positive sense, a positive thought, thought form or astral form will go towards that person and will affect that person in a positive manner. Now, if the other person is not sensitive enough to realize this, that some help has come, some elevation has come in his mood, in his thinking, then it's okay. But if a person is sensitive, as you said, psychically evolved enough to realize that it is coming from outside and it is not generated from within, then that person will be able to see that. Now, the important point here is, just like in the physical body, somebody offers to me something and I have the decision to either accept it or not to accept it. It is with me. But on the astral and the mental planes, I do not have that distinction between I and the not I. Meaning, I am not self conscious in that sense that I can distinguish between my thought, my feeling, and what is coming from outside, attaching itself, impressing upon me, and whether it is from somewhere outside or whether it is from myself, it is not clear in us, in most of the humans. In the psychically developed person, if he is sensitive enough to know that some form or some influence has come from outside, then that person can either block it, stop it, or accept it. Just like somebody comes, some visitor comes to your house, rings a bell, you can either open the door or not open the door, up to you. But since most of our houses are open, visitors are coming, visitors meaning the astral forms, the thought forms, they are coming in and they're going from our houses. We are not knowing who's coming, who's going, who's part of our family, who's not part of our family. So it is a very big mess as far as we are concerned. So that is in short the answer. Later on, maybe next time, we'll discuss much more in detail about these various aspects.
थैंक यू सर। एक और बात पूछना था कि ऐसे समर्स में टाइमिंग चेंज हो जाता है, तो विल इट स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 6 मे बी?
Our meeting?
Yes, yes.
Mathur ji can tell better. Mathur ji?
हेलो हेलो मैंने रिपीट कीजिएगा मैडम। हेलो
सर मैं ये टाइमिंग्स का पूछ रही थी, जैसे
हाँ।
जनरली समर्स में
हाँ।
थोड़ा बढ़ा देते हैं तो
नहीं, एक्चुअली हम लोग जो है अभी चेंज नहीं हो पा रहा, क्योंकि कई सारी और मीटिंग्स चलती हैं, उसकी वजह से हम लोग इसको चेंज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। 5:30 to 6:30 ही रख रहे हैं, क्योंकि इंडियन सेक्शन की मीटिंग भी होती है और ऐसे ही एक दो और भी मीटिंग्स होती हैं। लॉजेस की, रोहित लॉज की है, वो भी 6 बजे 6:30 बजे के आसपास होती है। तो कुछ ऐसा था कि हम लोग चेंज नहीं कर पा रहे टाइम को। आपका सजेशन अगर कोई है तो दे दीजिएगा, वी विल थिंक ओवर इट एंड
सर एक्चुअली आई ऑलवेज वांट टू अटेंड दिस सेशंस, और मैं घर आते आते इट्स 6 o'clock, so that is why.
ठीक है, आपकी बात ठीक है। एनीवे वी विल कंसीडर, अभी फॉर द टाइम बीइंग, फॉर प्रेजेंटली इट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट। एनीवे वी विल सी टू इट। थैंक यू फॉर सजेशन। राजीव, मृणाल जोशी जी का एक क्वेश्चन है चैट बॉक्स में, नेचर स्पिरिट्स के डायमेंशंस क्या होते हैं?
डायमेंशन छोटे हैं, हमने बताया था कि डायमेंशंस उनके छोटे होते हैं, और एक डिस्क्रिप्शन जो दी थी 1 फुट और 8 इंच की उन्होंने कैलकुलेट करा था। यूजुअली दे आर स्मॉल इन साइज, डिमिनिटिव, दे आर हैविंग डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ फीचर्स एंड मेनी ऑफ देम दे try to imitate humans by having human forms, but they have their own forms as well, some favorite form, and they can keep on changing their forms. Usually they are small in size. This is what we have been told.
जॉफरे हडसन जी ने लिखा है। मृणाल जोशी जी, और कुछ आपने पूछना है तो डायरेक्टली पूछिए।
डायमेंशंस साइज के हिसाब से मैं नहीं पूछ रही थी, जैसे हम फिजिकल प्लेन में जो 3 डायमेंशन पे रहते हैं उस हिसाब से मैं पूछ रही थी।
ये हमारे को बताया नहीं है उसके अंदर कि वो 3 डायमेंशन या 4 डायमेंशन या 5 डायमेंशन। एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे क्योंकि 4 डायमेंशन होते हैं, हो सकता है 4 डायमेंशन हो। हमारी एस्ट्रल बॉडी भी क्या 4 डायमेंशन की होती है कि 3 की, ये भी हमें नहीं बताया गया है, तो वी डोंट नो। but I can make a calculated assumption because there are 4 dimensions in the astral plane, so probably the extension into the fourth is also there. So the beings are fourth. All of the beings must be having bodies in 4 dimensions, probably.
ओके ओके, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू। और कोई इस मीटिंग में इसके ऊपर क्लैरिफाई कर सकता है? शिंदे जी, हेलो।
मृणाल जोशी ने पूछा है।
हाँ सर।
She knows the dimensions, so it is like it is changing dimension. It is changing, just like amoeba. There is no fixed form, so it is a changing dimension. They can change their dimension. That is what I think. Mrinal is also a professor, huh?
थैंक यू सर।
Mrinal,
हाँ
Mrinal,
हाँ,
you think of it, no dimension as such.
ओके ओके, थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू मृणाल
Thank you,
जोशी
thank
जी,
you जी, thank
थैंक
you.
यू शिंदे जी, थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता। अब हम लोग क्लोज
एक
करते
मिनट
हैं। और
एक
किसी
मिनट, माथुर जी एक और है मेनन माया जी का, इसके अंदर है
किसका?
कि मेनन माया जी का कि आई वांट टू बाय द बुक्स अबाउट फेरीज एंड देवास, हाउ कैन आई बाय इट? तो अडियार का आप ना मेनन माया जी, अडियार के अंदर ऑनलाइन ऑल्सो देर इज सेल ऑफ बुक्स, और एल्स यू कैन कॉन्टैक्ट TPH, थियोसॉफिकल पब्लिशिंग हाउस इन अडियार, the in the website of tsadyar.com, or you can just write Adyar books in Google and search. You will find that, and you can buy the books from there. If you are unable to do so, please contact. I will send through email to you the link of that online catalog, and you can buy. Also, uh, if you want to contact, I will send you the number and the email of TPH, Theosophical Publishing House. You can contact them and call them and find out about the different books.
माया जी, आप कॉल पे हो, आपको जो भी इसमें से बुक्स का अगर वो चाहिए तो ऑनलाइन बुक्स तो हम लोग भेज सकते हैं, PDF या उस पे, अगर आपको कुछ चाहिए जो।
I don't know much in Hindi. I don't know. I'm from Kerala.
नहीं नहीं,
Kuch-
नो इशू, इन इंग्लिश वी विल सेंड इट टू यू, बट
Yeah.
दोस ऑनलाइन बुक्स, बट फ्रॉम Adyar, as Rajiv ji is saying, you can take the books whatever is available.
Maya ji, can you just write your email address so that we will send you the relevant information?
I shall write in the chat box
Yes,
now.
yes, yes, please
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll. Thank you.
अच्छा, ये माथुर जी, ये क्या अपनी लाइब्रेरी में ये
कुछ बुक्स हमारी
लेट बीटर
लाइब्रेरी
जी
में
की, ये
होंगी।
एस्ट्रल बॉडी, एस्ट्रल प्लेन
हाँ, कुछ हमारी बुक्स
होगी,
ये सब होंगी। कुछ
फॉर
books-
सेल भी होगी?
नहीं, सेल के लिए तो अभी
होगी।
हमको श्योर नहीं है, क्योंकि उसकी चाबी नहीं है ना हम लोग के पास अभी, लोगों जी, ये थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम है अभी। ठीक है, तो इसके बारे में अभी तो हम बुक्स के बारे में नहीं कह पाएंगे आपको कि वो पर्टिकुलर सेल के लिए, मगर हाँ पढ़ने के लिए बुक्स जरूर होगी। और आपको ऑनलाइन अगर चाहिए तो हम लोग फटाफट भेज सकते हैं, कोई ऐसी बुक आपको चाहिए। ठीक है,
हाँ, ऑनलाइन का बताइए। अमेज़न में ये किताब 200 रुपए में मिल रही है, CW लेडबीटर की,
अच्छा।
बट आई डोंट नो हाउ ऑथेंटिक दैट इज।
नहीं, बुक तो
अडियार से मिलेगा तो बेटर है।
हाँ ठीक है,
अडियार से मिलेगा तो बेटर है
हाँ
ना।
भगवान जी, मैं आपको वो नंबर भेज दूंगा अडियार वालों का, जो थियोसॉफिकल पब्लिशिंग हाउस है। आप उनसे बात कर लीजिएगा। इंडिविजुअल्स को वो 20% डिस्काउंट भी देते हैं बुक्स के ऊपर, और मगर थोड़ा उनका चार्ज होता है पोस्टेज का, जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है। तो आप उनसे बात करके और डिस्कस कर सकते हैं।
आपने मुझे वो बुक मेल पे भेजी भी है। प्लीज
ठीक है।
Hello.
हेलो, हाँ बोलिए।
May I share with you, these books are e-copies are also available on the internet, and if somebody wants them, kindly send me the WhatsApp and I'll send the e-copy of these books.
ठीक है
सर, वो ई कॉपी तो गुप्ता जी ने भेजी हुई है मेरे को। आई वांटेड द रियल, द हार्ड कॉपी। थैंक यू सर।
ठीक है भगवान जी। और किसी का अगर कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो अब हम लोग क्लोज करेंगे मीटिंग प्रेयर करके। सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु न कश्चित्